Welcome everybody to Bobby Talks, ... Those dots are there to tell you that there's always more to the story. In today's story, well, it's time to address the elephant in the room, the Republicans. I'm sitting here with Lisa Bailey and Anthony Cremeans. How you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
Doing well. I appreciate you guys being here. We talked a lot about this. This is part 3 of what I thought was going to be a 4-part kind of series. That isn't going to be the case. This is the last part.
Who would the 4 have been?
Oh, Will Delzede.
Oh.
We were going to sit down and just talk about ideologies. And since we didn't get to that because of how late we had to push things back and the election being on Tuesday.
And him being a new daddy.
Yeah, him being a new daddy as of what, Thursday or Wednesday of last week. We just thought it'd probably be best if we just, kind of push that one off to another day. You guys are it. You're the finale. You're the finish line. And we're 2 days away from election. Are you guys ready to get this series underway?
Yes.
Let's do
All right. Are you ready to get the election over with?
Yes.
Yeah. Are we ready to get 2020 over with?
Yes.
Yes.
It's been something. It's been an incredible
Been a
year.
terrible year.
Yeah. One for the books. What has your year been like?
It's been terrible.
Yes.
It's like every plan was completely debunked and just done.
Especially traveling plans.
Traveling,
I was
yeah.
supposed to be going to Disney World next month. I'm
Yeah.
not. No.
Are they not open down there? I thought
They're open, but they're limiting, and I'm not paying $3,000 to go to Disney World and not.
you want the full
exactly.
experience when you do something like that. Yeah, no,
Exactly.
I totally understand. What about you? What's your year been like?
Not terrible. I've been working the whole time, so
Sure.
I've stayed somewhat normal. But the traveling it sucks, man.
Did your company ever shut down? Was there a...
Nope.
No, you guys
Nope.
never missed
They
a beat
sent some
then.
of the office people home. I cover them, so I just go up and I got this entire giant room all to myself. I usually
Nice.
just leave the lights off. So
So nobody bothers you.
No.
They know you're... Yeah, makes sense, man. I got to tell you, that with everything, it gave us time, if anything, right? And being a school teacher, I had a 6-month summer vacation,
Right.
which was enjoyable. I'd be a hypocrite if I said it wasn't enjoyable. It's allowed me to start this show. And now that we're here, I appreciate it. Appreciate you being here. Let's get to it.
All right.
The first question I want to ask is, you guys are supporters of Donald Trump. That's fair to say, right?
Yes.
Okay. We are here now going to be the end of his 4th year. Tell me how you felt about him 4 years ago and where you're at with him to this day. Go ahead.
Okay, 4 years ago, I was ready for a change. I do not believe in the policies that Obama Biden had. So, yes, Trump was plus he was new. He wasn't a politician. With the corruption going on in the government, I thought that was great.
Sure.
He's a strange man. He's a narcissist. He's talks too much. He's everything you don't want in a president.
Sure.
But he's done more than any president ever has.
Okay.
In my mind.
Sure.
I hated him. I didn't like him at all. I was pissed he was the nominee, and I was a Ted Cruz guy.
Yeah, I remember
and
that. I
There
do
was a
remember
number of people. Rand Paul, I would have taken. I love Rand Paul. I just didn't think he had a chance to win, so I wanted
What
to make
about
sure.
Marco Rubio? Was that that time? Was he running then as well?
He was okay. Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
He was
okay.
okay.
Yeah.
You know, I liked. I was not happy that it was Donald Trump.
Sure.
Let's just put it that
Yeah.
way. And I would have voted Gary Johnson, except I do have. I don't know if we're going to get to that later. Our non-negotiables.
Yeah.
Being abortion.
We will. Yep.
So I couldn't do it. He's pro-choice.
Yeah.
You know, that
Yeah.
is just no way. So that was the reason, and it was mainly a vote for Mike Pence. I like Mike Pence a lot.
How much did Hillary Clinton play into that part too?
A lot.
Yeah.
I can't stand her.
Yeah. And going along with what you said, is you were ready for a change. Her being a lifer, her being,
Oh, gosh.
especially the Clinton name, right? I don't necessarily think that lifer term is, I don't like the way it's been used right now. I don't think it's a bad thing to be a lifer of anything, because most of us spend our careers doing the same thing if we can. With that being said, in the role of, politicians, power can be an
it can
issue.
corrupt you
It
when you
can
stay there
corrupt
too
you.
long.
I don't think it's true to say that everybody that stayed as long as they have has been corrupted. That's just the part that I was trying to say, is that I feel like it's been kind of boggled together, that if you are a lifer, you must be corrupted. But I can understand the feelings on the matter. But Hillary Clinton, that was like, if ever a year there was a lesser of two evils, it was that year, right?
Oh, definitely.
And it felt that way. But Trump, I can understand it, that, especially if we're looking at 2016. I can see your side of things. You know what? Clinton, with the email scandal and everything that came out there, why not try Donald Trump? I mean, I have my reasons for like the character side of things, and you've listed a few of those. But I can understand why people took a chance on him. I really do. My question is that how 4 years later are you willing to take that same chance? So tell me now where you stand with him and why you what are some of the things that you like that he stands for, and some of the policies that he's standing for you?
He's very conservative. The craziest thing I followed Trump from day one. And like you, at first I was hesitant, Ted Cruz person myself.
Yep.
But the more he spoke, here he is, a billionaire.
Yeah.
He's giving up that. I mean, he's got it all.
Yeah.
He's got the world by the balls.
Yeah.
And he gives it up because he knows we can do better. And at that point in time, we're losing our country. I'm sorry, but Obama, all the, what was that? Ferguson. And then he brings up these Black Lives Matter and Antifa and, puts them in the White House and congratulates them.
Oh yeah, 2016,
and, yeah, and after that, and I've never been racist in my whole life, but the more they push that, the more I'm like, you're pushing my racist out of me.
Okay.
You don't have any more rights than I do.
So when you were saying, I need you to elaborate a little bit on that, or maybe you can help her in what she was talking about. I'm not 100% sure. But so I think it was 14. I said 16. It was 2014, I believe, Ferguson took place.
Yes.
And then was it the Baltimore Orioles game that played a baseball game with no crowd? And this was pre-COVID, so that was kind of an interesting dilemma at that time. Yeah. What is it that you mean, though, when you say they don't have more rights? Are you talking about, like, black people in general, that they don't have any more rights than you do? Or were you talking about...
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I don't think we're a racist country.
Okay.
And that's one thing I like about Donald Trump, because he's not racist. And he's not racist, he's not homophobic, he's not... What's all the words they throw at Islamophobic? He's none of that.
Do you think... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I'll agree with that. You see stuff like the Ferguson thing.
Yeah.
You see stuff like, let's go to recently, George Floyd.
Right.
George Floyd would have not been killed had he not attacked those police officers. And there's a video that came out, and Keith Ellison, the Attorney General in Minnesota, didn't want that getting out. It actually leaked out because it shows the whole story. And I'm not saying that, what was his name? Derek Chauvin? Was that his name?
Yeah, the police officer.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's wrong. That's manslaughter. He deserves to go to prison. But what happened prior to that, though, is he attacked those cops. And I don't know if you've even seen the video. It leaked and it was online for a little while. I'm sure you could still find it somewhere. But there's like 4 cops. He's attacking the 3, and they're trying to push him into the car. He's saying he's got claustrophobia. They get him in there. Then he kind of props his legs up and pops back and lands on another officer. That's when they came around and he put his knee on him. I mean, he created this hyped up situation, and when you attack the police, bad stuff's going to happen. Exactly. And it's just something that, I don't think he was right for doing that, but you get a human being in a situation like that, it's not about race. There's no race involved. I mean, it's about survival, and then you got your knee. I mean, it's just, you're a human being, and emotions took over, and he made a mistake. But, I mean, he does deserve to go to prison. But let's not pretend like George Floyd was a saint. I mean, he broke into a lady's house, held a gun to her pregnant stomach, threatened. I mean, the guy, I don't know.
So I hear you. I understand what you're saying.
So I just don't think it's about race. But yet we made it, the media.
The media.
That's the ones that they make. It's got to be race. And we got to run to the race thing. And I don't think most people care.
Well, let's come back to that if we can.
Okay.
I wanted to touch on what you said, if we can. You said that America's not racist. When do you believe America stopped being racist? Like what era, what generation? Because we have a history of it, surely, right?
Oh, certainly. And I'm not saying they're...
When do you believe it stopped?
When do I believe it stopped being racist? Oh, gosh. Probably 70s. I mean, not stopped. I mean, it's never going to stop. And I'm sorry, yes, there are
There's always
people
going to
who
be
are
some.
racist.
Yeah.
It's going to be there.
Okay.
But I think we, in the 70s and the 80s and even to the 90s, I mean, I worked alongside every nationality and ethnicity.
Yeah.
And I never had a problem with anybody.
Right.
I would say towards the late 90s, mid to late 90s is when it became a very unpopular ideal. And there were still some left. I mean, you still had people from 30s and 40s, and that's just how it was back then. I don't think they were necessarily bad people. I think that's just kind of how things were. So there was different classes, sort of, and it's not right. But you can't blame them for stuff that happened that long ago. That was just the culture, you know.
Well, when you say that, though, the interesting part is that we're all a product of what we grew up with, right? So I'm a product of my grandparents and my mother. One thing I've always appreciated within my family is that nothing was ever pushed on me. And growing up, I couldn't tell you if my grandpa was an independent, Democrat, Republican. I had no clue because it wasn't in my house. It just wasn't in the household, right? And my grandpa, I use my grandpa because he's the biggest influence in my life. So I found my own way kind of on my own. What's interesting, just as a side note, is that my grandpa's now 84, I believe, and Fox News has never been on the television more than it has in the last 2 years. It was never on the television, and now the last year or two, I've seen it pop up on.
What do you think
TV.
that is? Just the COVID stuff, or?
I think he was introduced to it from my uncle down in Florida. I think it was his daughter and wife. They come up and visit every so often. I think they were watching it one night, and I think he just enjoyed one program, and then it spread into another and another. I don't want to spend too much on that, but because I lost my train of thought already. But anyways, in the sense of racism and when it ended, and you say the 90s, you were kind of talking about that. And that's
I would say mainstream. Now, I'm not going to say like there isn't some radical groups out there. There are.
Sure.
But I think the vast majority of people in today's society don't care. We just don't care. No. But it's hard when the media keeps, well, it's about race. And it's like, well, there's no evidence that the George Floyd thing had anything to do with race.
Right.
He didn't set out that day to kill a black person.
Right.
It was a situation. They were arresting him. He attacked them, and it just turned into that. And stuff like that is just going to happen. And there's a lot of this stuff because, what was it, Jacob Bloyd, the guy that got shot in the back, he's reaching into his car.
Yeah.
Don't reach into your car, man. When the police have you at gunpoint, you just give yourself up. You reach in your car, there's videos, you can type it in YouTube right now, and you're going to see videos of that ending a different way when he pulls out a gun.
Sure,
and,
yeah.
I don't think he had a gun. They never said, and at least I never heard. However, cops don't know that, man.
You're right. They
got to go home to their families.
And they have the right to make it home to their families.
Well, and especially now. Yeah. I mean, they're getting gunned down left and right.
Yeah.
And that's been happening for a few years.
But what the black community would say is that there's too many situations like Ahmaud Arbery, and that's not necessarily with the cops, but like they are being profiled by people. But in the case of Derek Chauvin, it might not have been racist. But what happened was there was a thing of police conformity that was taking place where the other three should have been like, dude, ease up. But they felt uncomfortable to do so because he was their superior. So what came from the George Floyd case for maybe non-black community is police reform, okay? If you're in the black community, and this is the point I found it, I got back to it, with my grandfather was that my grandfather was born in 1936. He was in his teens in the 50s, okay? Our family's same way. Yours maybe, I don't know how old you are. I'm not going to ask you. But, but we're a byproduct of where we come from. If you're talking about 30s and 40s and 50s America, and you're talking about people we know, those people are still in those households today telling the stories about racist America. So we're not too far removed. It might sound like a lot, 70, 80 years from that time period, but it's actually not. In the sense of when you have stories being handed down, we're only maybe 2 generations removed from that time period.
But if you look at today's world, I mean, it doesn't matter to most people.
But we're only looking at it from our perspective as well.
Well, and you got to go back to this whole the cops going after the black people. Statistically, and I don't have the statistics, but more unarmed white people are being shot by the
Well,
police.
there is also more white people. But one thing, too, is if you really look at the numbers of blacks, unarmed blacks shot by the police, you got about the same odds of winning the Powerball as you do being in that nationally.
So let me ask you this question, then, because I'm glad you guys brought this up. The conversation that I generally have when this conversation comes up is it's a good talking point. I can hear it and I understand it. I get it because that's what you do. If you're, especially like me, I look in data, I look at science, and I say you have to. Yeah. The question is this: is it okay when there's particular cases like George Floyd should have went to jail that night, right? Should have still had his life.
Yes.
Life is permanent, or death is permanent, right?
Yeah.
He had the right to go to jail and one day go home again if he did everything right. My question is this: if these unlawful type of executions of human beings are happening at the white community or the black community, how come the white community isn't bent out of shape about it like the black community
I think it's all to do with the media. You see, and I can tell you right now, there's some stuff I saw that came out and people would post, and you've got white people. There's one where he's in a hallway, and I wish I had the names and the exact things. I mean, I could get that to you later, and you could post it on here. I don't know. But, I mean, he's on his knees. The cop's giving him all kinds of orders. Some white guy in the middle of a hotel, a hallway, and giving him all kinds of orders, and then he ends up just shooting him, like, out of the blue for no reason. And it was crazy. And, I mean, that is murder. And so, I mean, you do see it, but that doesn't sell news. Like that's not what you've got a liberal media that wants to divide. They feel that they can divide, they can conquer. And they want to get people riled up and get them mad at conservatives and stuff like that. They want to play the race game. And I think most people are over that.
To what motive? What reason?
To keep us all riled up and keep us divisive.
But
I think that they want to keep.
I'm sorry, that's huge.
But why do you believe in such maliciousness in people? Why do you believe that exists? Why do you believe that when you say because I wrote down who is the media when you talk about them, because I don't believe majority of young Americans are watching Fox, CNN, or MSNBC.
I don't even have.
Well, you can even go to Google, Facebook, and Twitter, and they're censoring everything down the pipe.
Big tech.
And
it's a big deal.
But they're letting what they want to be out there front and center. And why would they do this? I don't know. But they're trying to paint Trump as the racist.
And that's where it goes, because it goes back to police.
Yes.
And I think they know that most police are going to be more conservative. I don't know. You just are. I mean,
when Trump said at the first debate, Proud Boys, do you guys know who the Proud Boys are?
Yes.
Is it wrong of him to say Proud Boys stand by and stand back, or stand back and stand by? Is that wrong of him to say that? Does that not incite fury into people that might say, well, what does that comment even mean if he's not racist?
All I know is that you've got a lot of cities being burned down, and it's not by the Proud Boys. It's by Antifa and Black Lives Matter. And Black Lives Matter, the ideal, yes, I agree with.
Sure.
The organization is a Marxist organization.
Absolutely.
You can go right on their website, and you can see they're against the family. They want to break up the American family.
But you're smart enough. You're a smart guy, though. You're smart enough to know that when we talk about Black Lives Matter, we're talking about the message. We're not talking about the group, right? So we're talking about the message.
I think the group is very important, because you've got a lot of people that don't know the difference, so they go and they donate to this group,
That's true. That's a huge. Yeah,
you need to differentiate the group versus the.
But if the problem is with the freedom of assembly, right, is that anybody can assemble and anybody can go out there as an opportunist, right? So. Here's the thing I wanted to talk about was energy, how we spend our energy. And I know you kind of wanted to make a point, and we'll come back to you, Lisa. What bothers me, especially in social media, right, today, and I have a plethora of friends all over the place in the political spectrum. The issues that I have is that where do we spend our energy? And what I mean by this is this. When the George Floyd thing happened, I didn't know what to do. I probably assume you guys feel the same way in the sense of like, wow, that is wrong, right? That's wrong. The issue is that it's not like CNN and MSNBC said, let's start a rally, a riot group, or a protest group in 2 days' time and do that in Minnesota. No, I understand. But that group is already there. So now it becomes news. So now the news media does go there, and now they have a chance to frame it and tell the narrative the way they want. That part I give you.
Well, CNN, just recently, there was that guy that had the knife in Philadelphia. I don't remember his name.
Yeah.
Right on the bottom, and I forget what they call that thing on the bottom.
Just a headline ticket.
Yeah, there's a name. There's a fancy name for it. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ticket. Yep.
Well, anyway, it says, black man shot by police.
Right.
Well, was he sitting in his home and just randomly was shot by police?
Right.
Was he wielding a knife and running at them?
Should just be man shot by police. Understand.
Well, I think it should just be man, but it should be knife wielding man shot by police, and then that explains a lot more, because he had a weapon. I mean,
he did, but let's be honest though. So this is kind of the part of Police Academy and the reform that we're looking for is that I go to school to be a gym teacher. It takes me 4 years just to get that accreditation. They go to the academy for 9 months. Yeah. They should be able to understand. I'm fully sensitive to the fact of our police officers and how dangerous their job is to do, which is why the 9-month thing I don't fully understand. It's either 9 months is perfect for them and I should have been going to school for 2 months, or it's the other way around. I don't know, but here's what I do know is that when you have, 4 or 5, how many police officers were there?
Something like that,
4 or 5 police officers, and you have one man with a knife, which they knew that's all he had. The issue is that when a knife is brought to a gunfight, we know who's going to win that battle. The question becomes, and there's a two-part question here, and I'll let you answer first, is why is that the appropriate response to shoot the man that has a knife 7 times by more than one person? Can you answer that?
It's not
Okay.
the appropriate.
Okay.
Bottom line, and I agree with you. I think cops need to have more training. I'm not saying they need diversity training.
Sure.
But they need training for these instances. You know, here's this guy coming at you with a knife, and you saw the video,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
I mean, he was crazy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but couldn't you have shot him in the kneecap?
I always ask. That was the second
see,
part of
that's
my
what I
question.
don't get.
Yeah, go
That's
ahead.
not really possible. When they're trained to shoot center mass because that's your biggest area is right in here.
Then maybe
if
they
you
need
try
to
and shoot a
change.
kneecap, you're gonna miss. You can't. It's too hard.
But then,
Especially-
okay,
Wouldn't even
but
one
even-
shot have stopped him? Or
That's a
Well, but-
another
at least-
point. Yeah.
When you have guns drawn, you're not gonna go back and change weapons out and hope that you get the right one and go for a taser. Like your guns are drawn, you're on him and saying, "Get down, stop, put it down." When he charges at you, you have to take.
But the
that
whole
as-
thing didn't take place like that. It didn't take place.
Well-
It wasn't like they just showed up and then he started running at them and they didn't have time to react. They had their guns drawn. They could have chose the right gun. They're supposed to be trained to choose the right gun in that situation over somebody like you or me who might not be trained.
I want to say that when they have a deadly weapon, and that's a deadly weapon, you know, if he was just out there with his bare hands, they wouldn't have pulled out. But he has a weapon. They need to pull a gun. I mean, unfortunately, look, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do these things. And then you won't get in these situations.
That's
and it's
an
like,
easy answer to a very complicated question, though.
I understand that, but I don't think you can shoot for kneecaps. You're going to miss, and it's going to be more dangerous.
Okay, but the thing, you got 4 of them against the one guy. There's a lot of stuff going on though in the background, and
Yes.
these cops.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but they got their adrenaline is.
Exactly.
Through the
They're
roof.
human beings. They're human
So
beings.
I mean, the guy's dead. It's terrible, but I mean, couldn't you wounded the?
I'm with-
There's 4 guys.
Well, I just
don't know,
think
at some
technology
point.
is so different these days, like with the tasers and the rubber bullets
Yeah.
and these types of things that exist. Why don't we use them more?
Or then why didn't one cop have the rubber bullets, one guy have the, but all.
I think these
have
things
the
happen
high
so
power.
fast.
I
you
do
just,
too.
You know
And
what I
that's
mean? You're
the
never
thing.
going to know. And
we
it's
can't
unfortunate.
second
But
guess
at the end of the day, I mean, those cops got to hold. I mean, I wouldn't hesitate. You know,
Let
if
me
some
ask
guy
you this
comes at me
question.
with a knife, I'm putting him down.
Isn't it fair to say, though, and I'm not talking defund the police because I know you probably haven't seen my last episode. You just
did.
heard about me talk, so I appreciate you being on the show. Defund the police is
It's
an
a dumb
absolute.
idea.
It's a dumb idea. It was a dumb message. If you want to talk about allocating funds somewhere else, that's another story altogether. But defund the police, the message itself is bad. In the sense of this, though, would you agree that reforming is something that should be looked at? Because it
As
just,
far as like the training, or I mean,
in my
extend the training period?
career, if I this is the end of my 6 years as a teacher. If I do not go back and continue my education or do professional development that says that I'm trying to learn with today's student every 6 years, I lose my accreditation. I can't teach no more. The day you're done at the academy, you could be in it for 30 years and you don't have to do any more.
Well, I do know
professional.
they have to do some kind of weapons qualifying and stuff beyond that point. I mean, there is some stuff
But
they have to do.
deep-rooted situational training. Don't you think they should reform that and look at it a little harder?
It couldn't hurt.
Because what I just don't like doing is I want the appropriate response for the appropriate crime. That's all I think all of us
Well,
really want.
I mean, at the end of the day, man, there has to be some sort of responsibility on those people that are doing these
There
things.
absolutely
Thank
should.
you.
You're
Thank you,
putting
yes.
people in terrible situations, and then you're going to blame them. And it's like, well,
But that's the problem with this, though. That is the absolute problem, though, is that if only he would have lived, then the community, then the message stays on these people. Bill Cosby, before he went and did all of his stuff, or maybe after, we didn't know.
Yeah.
That used to be his biggest thing, is that we need to have better communications within our own communities in order to, especially in the black community, right? Talking about how, if you're not in situations with cops, then you won't be liable to die with situations with cops.
Well, that's how you behave.
And then the cop, we've been losing respect for. I mean, I was always taught respect the cop. Bottom line, I've been pulled over. It's like, okay, hands on the wheels, whatever I had to do. I mean, they're your authority.
Do you remember
at
what
this
age you
point.
were when you first had conversation about how to approach a police officer?
Probably early teens.
Okay. Do you?
I don't know that I ever did. I don't know.
Well, just kidding. So on my first episode, I sat down with a couple of my black friends, Gerald Brantley and James Robinson, and they were as young as 6. Why do you think that is?
For the reason that it's going on today, but because unfortunately for black people, there, God, this sounds doesn't even sound right, but like the projects. I mean, or okay, let's just take Chicago. What's going on there? They're killing each other. So, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime.
Do you think there's people that are working on Chicago and trying to fix the behaviors?
Yes, I think Trump is. Thank you very much. Okay. With his opportunity zones.
I agree with that. Okay. And I think that too, there's a problem with black culture. And I'm just going to say that. It's when you get into these inner cities where there's a heavy amount of black people, they're not nice places. And no jobs. It's when you look at the statistics, they're fatherless. I mean, for the most part, and I'm not saying every one of them. I'm not saying it's some kind of genetical predisposition. There's something going on in black communities that is just hurting them. It's when you grow up without a father, you're not even a father figure, and you grow up and your mom's doing whatever, and it's not going to turn out well in most cases. It's just not.
I have a
and there has to be some sort of expectation, some sort of they need to look at themselves. And I think a lot of that with Trump and his criminal justice reform is getting males back out of prison for small, minor drug offenses. I think that's a really good thing, and that's why his black voting percentage is going to go through the roof here in a couple of days.
You believe that?
Yeah, I think he's going to he got something like 8 or 9% last time. I bet he's at least probably 13 or 14% this time. I mean, and his approval rating with them has gone up. You've seen rappers come out and endorse him because of the platinum
50
plan.
50 Cent just did, I believe.
There was another Lil Wayne or whatever. I mean, you're seeing that because he's actually addressing these issues. And the blacks, they need to, you got people like Candace Owens out there saying it. I mean, you got to be responsible for yourself too. There's no government program that's going to fix you. You have to look at yourselves and say, I need to be a father. I need to stop gangbanging and all this stuff. You need to focus on your family and progress yourself. And I think Trump is giving them opportunities that they may not have had through an economy. You got manufacturing jobs coming back like crazy. I mean, all that stuff is going to give them a leg up and help them. Whereas if there's no opportunity, and the Democrats own this situation. 70% of blacks live inside or around inner cities. All Democrat controlled, have been since the beginning of time, it seems like. They own these situations and they don't care about them. They show up around the election and say, hey, you're not black. You're not black if you don't vote for me.
Exactly.
Like Joe Biden.
Joe Biden did say that, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's like, well, what the hell does that even mean? What have you done for them? You got a guy in 4 years that's done more for the black community, and it's showing in his you look at his approval ratings with blacks. I mean, they get it, man. They understand that, hey, there's an ownership. We got to take ownership of ourselves, but we also need opportunities. And Democrats in inner cities, you see highest income inequality. It's not good, man. City life ain't so good, and it's getting worse. And especially when you got a bunch of get them all riled up, the Antifa people, they come in, they burn your neighborhood down. Well, can't get your medicines. They burn down Rite Aid.
He came out of the rut, built his own business, and then his neighborhood comes and tears it all down. Now, I'm sorry.
By whites, blacks, Hispanics.
See, and that's the other thing
mostly
about
Antifa. They're mostly white
they're
at
all,
these riots.
yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so, real quick, sorry, I should have told you this off camera. We're getting ready to go to a break here. Switch the SD cards out. Appreciate the first half for sure. I didn't get to my point about energy. That's okay. We'll get to it later. We'll come back, talk about non-negotiables and tangibles. We'll talk a little bit more specifically about Trump and a lot more things, guys. I really appreciate you being here so far. Stay tuned. See you on the other side. Thanks. Welcome back, everybody, to Bobby Talks, ... We know why those dots are there. Sitting here with Anthony Cremeans, Lisa Bailey. Lisa, you're out of Blissfield, right?
Yep.
Okay, born and raised?
Nope.
Where are you from?
I was born in Massachusetts. We moved to Adrian when I was 6.
Okay, that's the connection and why Danny and Brad go.
Yep.
Okay, and Anthony, I know you've been around this area a long time, just like myself. So the reason I asked this is because I'm just curious about where your upbringing was. Boston, liberal town, conservative town? A little bit of both?
Very liberal town.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were outside of Boston.
Okay, just on the suburbs a little bit.
My dad is very conservative.
Okay.
He and I used to have many, many fights. And now he's gone. He'd be very proud of me. So.
He'd be very proud of you. Well, good deal. I kind of want to talk, and we were going to maybe not spend a lot of time on all of these, but I just want to get your non-negotiables, and I'll start with Anthony, and what we're talking about here is what are the non-negotiables that no matter what, if Donald Trump was to come out and say, I'm supporting this, you'd be like, I can't support him no more. What, or Joe Biden, or whatever. What are your non-negotiables?
Abortion, First Amendment, and I think the First Amendment, well, when you go back to the abortion thing, I mean, I think it's getting crazy.
Okay.
With the partial birth abortions, you got Northam in Virginia, the governor there, talking about letting them die after they're born.
Okay.
I mean, that's murder.
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
Where I come from, that's murder. I don't know. And then you move to like the First Amendment. I think big tech is suppressing that, and they're in the tank for the Democrats. You see the story out of the New York Post with Joe Biden and his son. Won't let you share it on Twitter. Their account's still locked. It's basically banned from all media, all social media. I mean, that's election interference.
And when you say big tech, Facebook, Twitter,
Twitter,
social
YouTube,
media. Okay.
Google,
Yep.
the whole
Google.
ordeal.
Gotcha.
They're kind of all the same, it seems like. And so, I mean, that's a big deal. I mean, that is a story that it's not Russian, whatever they say. Misinformation. It is legit, and it needs
Has it been fact checked by a credible source?
Yes, the FBI has looked into it. They've had the laptop since, I believe, December of last year. Yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, look, we spent 2.5 years on Trump being a Russian agent or whatever, and it's completely false. It was made up. There was the Steele dossier that was paid for by Hillary Clinton, and it was floated around by guys like John McCain as if it was legit. They signed a search warrant, spied on his campaign, launched the whole Mueller investigation, all on something they know was false, yet we can't look into this, it seems like. I mean, it's insane. We can't even share it.
How did the Clinton emails come about?
I believe that was WikiLeaks, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I'm just asking. I want to make sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, just the WikiLeaks, but
I mean, I'm sorry. What are your non-negotiables?
Well, I had Second
Amendment.
Amendment.
my non-negotiables.
Second Amendment.
Second Amendment. I can't vote for anybody
First
against
and
gun
Second
rights, and I think it's
Amendments.
never been clearer why you need gun rights nowadays.
The abortion thing, I have a really hard time of where it's gotten to. Roe versus Wade has been around for a long time. That's one that I'm a woman.
Yeah, you have more. You have more of a say on this.
Yeah,
than we do,
but I think there should be a limit, like the first trimester. But you're still talking about a human life.
Yeah.
It's so, if they got rid of that, I'm okay with that. But that isn't a non-negotiable.
I think it should be reserved for very rare cases of, I forget the technical term, but the egg or the ovary or whatever doesn't fall down right. I don't know the exact details. I'm not a doctor, but there's medical instances where it's necessary or both will die. That's a rare occasion, and that's fine. But even
one
the rape,
life isn't more important than the other one, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Even the rape one is kind of like, I'm borderline. I don't know. I mean, to me, it's like, I don't know. Should you end the life because they didn't do anything? You know what I mean? Right. So that's one where if I was negotiating, I'd say, okay, you can have those, but we're getting rid of all the other ones. The vast 99% of them gone.
Sure.
Other
non-negotiables.
I just know what I don't want. And
Okay.
I do not want my taxes to go up. I don't want to pay for somebody that could be working to not work. Trump did a fabulous job of getting our economy on track. The unemployment rate was, lowest it's ever been for all peoples. COVID hit, disaster. And, what do? He listened to the experts. He shut down the economy. So, yes, our economy's hurting. And, yes, we lost a lot of jobs. But these guys are like, it's all Trump's fault. He doesn't know how to do, his jobs were only from us anyway or whatever. He's done a fabulous job. And I know he'll do better when he gets a chance. When we go back to normal, which we need to do very quickly.
Do you think, should we transition to COVID? You guys okay with that? Or did you guys want to touch on anything else?
and I think he handled it about as well as he could. If you want to start talking about it.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
He let the states decide. Look, California isn't Michigan,
Small
and they're not
government.
Wyoming. They're all different. And so you need to let them decide what's best for them. Now we're seeing California and New York still dragging this thing out, and it's like, hey, we're done. Like, it's time to move forward.
Do you think so? When you say that though, so my question to you is that you believe it should have been a states by states decision, right? There shouldn't be a national mandate when you're fighting a pandemic that could have an impact on.
I think it started out as that.
As what?
As a national. I mean, when Trump jumped in and said, "Okay, here we go,"
he kind of endorsed it, but he never.
There was no mandate.
That's what I like about him is he's a small government. He leaves states' rights; they make up their mind.
Should he have put a stimulus check out to everybody?
No, I don't like that stuff.
What do you think? So when your people are losing their jobs because the recommendation is to shut down, we don't want to support them?
I don't think we ever should have shut down. I think
but we did. So
yes,
so
if you're forcing them to not go to work, yes.
Yes, then the stimulus was, necessary for that reason. But to push it to the limit like our governor has, Newsom, Cuomo, and I know a lot of other states. I mean, they're just these, it's especially like Whitmer. I'm sorry, we're from Michigan. So that's the elephant in the room. My God. It's like you can, you shut down all these small businesses, independent businesses. You let the big ones go. You shut down the beginning of the year, lawn mowing companies.
Yeah.
I have one.
Like you're outside.
I have
it's
one.
Not consistent, and that's the argument I've had with Steve Laundra of Sand Creek because my son goes there, and it's like none of it makes any sense. These kids can go play football and sweat and bleed and spit all over each other, but yet my kid can't wear a Halloween costume.
Right.
That doesn't make a bit of sense.
Why couldn't your kid wear a Halloween
costume? I
don't
know. I asked him why, and he just said, well...
So that was a district decision. So we wore them at our school.
Yeah, we didn't wear them at ours. And we won't even get on the playground. They got the playground shut down. There's caution tape like it's some kind of FBI investigation.
Again, that's a district decision, though. So that was a school district.
And, I emailed him, and I said, hey, man, I think, honestly, I said, just putting it very bluntly, I think your response has been pretty awful. I don't know what we're doing here. It's outside.
Right.
The UV rays from the sun go down and kill the virus. Like, there's no reason for that. And I asked him, what's the scientific basis for this? And he just sent some kind of political answer. Well, I put the safety of everybody for... That's fine. But what is the scientific reason why you're doing it? And that's the thing. It doesn't make any sense. Like, I had to get my phone fixed. Okay, yesterday. I dropped it a couple days ago and the screen broke. I took it into... Now it's T-Mobile, Sprint. I'm standing there, and they're limiting how many people can come in. But they got these kiosks where you can pay your bill. So the guy comes in and he says, "Sorry, sir, we're at the limit." And then he goes, "Well, I'm just paying my bill." "Oh, okay, that's fine."
So it's the obvious contradictions that are taking place everywhere you go.
It's ridiculous.
It is, and I think you just need to move on. It's got it's a 99.
But what I want to know is, I'm sorry, this has been called a virus, right? Mm-hmm. The flu's a virus. You have viruses all over.
We have a vaccine for the flu right now. 70% effective.
Does it 70% effective?
That's a pretty high number.
Okay, but I've taken the flu vaccine and I've gotten the flu. But I'm just, even the vaccine, the bottom line is, okay, look at Sweden, didn't do anything, wear your mask, we're not shutting down anything.
They were the gold standard for
They were the gold standard. They let everybody just run free and do whatever.
Well, and let the healthy young people go out and get it, because it ain't going to hurt them. You're talking almost 100% survival. That's the thing. It's like, let them become immune to it, and hey, if you have issues and stuff, stay home. I think but the rest of us, let us live our lives, because I just basically lost a year of my life. I lost a year of vacations with my kids. They can't dress up for Halloween. There's all kinds of things that we could have done that we just can't, and it's ridiculous. We didn't go to the zoo this year.
I understand the hysteria behind it, because I agree with you. You guys haven't said much that I disagree with on the COVID situation, just so I want to make sure I preface that.
And honestly, I would call that as a knock against Donald Trump for sounding the alarm bells on this thing, when I don't think we didn't know. But we went ahead and panicked.
I don't know if panic is the right term.
I think he had to do that because, number one, Trump's been a target since he's been there day one. He had to do something. They were not going to let him just sit there and do nothing.
Well, I'm not 100% sure, though, outside of the endorsement part of it, what he has done. And that's why I wanted to ask you guys. Because to me, it's just kind of like what I'm kind of getting it every day. It's like, I'll ask a question to an authority person, and they'll say, well, go ask this other authority person, or go ask this other authority person. It gets very frustrating when the buck is always passed. In his case, he made it a state's decision instead of a national mandate. You can say, so it sounds like you were okay with that he did that.
Absolutely. Look, America is a huge country. we have all kinds of different climates. We have all
Right.
kinds, and so that's why.
But the question is that if you're Steve Laundra and you're the superintendent of St. Creek Schools and you lose one kid, even though your survival rate is going to still be astronomically high and on your side, if you lose one kid, you failed. And that's the issue. That's the issue
we're
he's
putting
having. So what
unreal
he's
expectations
So
on
I understand that, but what I'm saying to you is until the vaccine comes out, you're going to have this type of precaution. Once the vaccine's out, if this is still the way we respond to it, then it's a very different conversation.
I would say
is that fair to say?
At a certain point, though, okay, you're a child that age. You're in a much more higher risk of dying in a car wreck on the way to school versus dying from COVID. I mean, there's only been
percentages
a
would agree with
handful
that,
of them. So, I mean, it's like, well, what are we doing here? And yeah, you can't. Somebody's gonna die at some point. Like everybody's going to die, and it's very unfortunate. But you can't shut down the entire world over a mild. It's a very mild virus, and that's the thing. A lot of people don't realize is that
See, and it's mild to children and kids. This
healthy
isn't deadly.
people.
This is. I am one of those that could be affected very badly from
Sure.
it. I have a mild emphysema, and it's going to affect me a little bit different. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But I refuse to quit living.
Right.
exactly, and,
refuse.
and that's the thing. I mean, look,
That's my choice
But
as
when
a
does it-
human being.
we could all
Totally
die in a
agree.
car wreck on the way home. I mean,
Right.
you've got to live your life, man, and that's where I'm just like.
But
I'm
can't we do
over
it living? I mean, my question to you is it fair to have the outrage over contact tracing when you walk into a restaurant and have to sign your name and then go sit down? Is that really fair to have to have?
It's kind of silly.
That's-
Doesn't it?
Stupid.
It's silly that they have to do it, or silly that we respond the way that we do.
Well, I think it's kind of silly that it even has to happen.
Yeah, why would
I mean,
they-
it just doesn't make sense.
But where is the
What are you going to
empathy
do?
towards the?
You're going to go check all these people and.
So I
say,
have to do
okay,
it for
you have to-
sports. I'm the athletic director, so I had 8 pages in my homecoming game, and I would have to call all those people and say you might have been exposed. Now do with it what you want. But you might have
Okay,
been.
but that's the thing. We're not
But we walk
children.
into Walmart and it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that's where it's just like the level of craziness over this. It's not this really, really deadly disease. It's what they call it, disease X, is what
Right.
the CDC refers to as like the big
Right.
one that hasn't happened, or at least we don't know of. And so, if that were to happen, it would have already. You'd have had so many dead people before you'd ever even be able to figure out what happened. And the thing is, it's a very mild disease, and it's time to just move on and live life, man.
And
Like.
the biggest problem with this whole thing is there's been no consistency from the top,
Either it's a
in the middle,
deadly disease,
around.
or it's
Fauci,
not.
how many times did he change his mind?
So if that's the case,
Yeah.
wouldn't you like a president to say enough? I'm going to take this over. Your
No.
information comes from me. Because how do you think he's done with his information? Of the way he's revealed the information to the public.
Well, he was having those daily press conferences.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you think he did with that?
I think he did okay.
You do.
I see. I personally got kind of mad at him throughout that because it's
Tell me
like
why.
you're starting to panic. Like you can't do this over something that we don't even know what it is. It
Because
could be-
since we don't know what it is, isn't it fair to say we need to buy time and we should take
well, right
precaution
now there could
until
be
we do?
another. There could be another one that formed, and it could be coming. And so should
Sure.
we buy time there? I mean, it's like, look, these things happen. It's just it's like a hurricane. Like you can't stop it. It's just a natural thing, and it's gonna spread, man. It's going through everybody, and there ain't anything you can do to stop it. You can lock down. And that's only going to cause more problems.
So is it fair to say that you yes or no to this question? You can give it a deeper response if you want. I'm just looking at time. If we wouldn't have done what we've done, you think the same amount of people would have died?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to. There will be a certain amount of people that die from it, and
I
that's
think
just.
it'd have been quicker, maybe.
Yeah.
But I think
Well, the
same
idea
amount.
was not to overrun the hospitals. That was the original goal.
Like
We've achieved that.
15 days.
Well, we've achieved that, but they're starting to talk about how that is possibly coming out because we're having
been saying that for how
65,000
long?
cases
Yeah, but-
a day now.
They've been
But
saying
where are
that for
you
how
hearing
long?
that news?
Well, I get it from NPR, which by MIT says is the most middle. Associated
Well,
Press and NPR are the most
But
middle
as of
fair.
now, we're not denying people ventilators that need them. We're not denying them hospital beds. I mean, we built all these in Houston. They had that big, massive hospital they built. Empty. Never
Wouldn't
saw a
you
patient.
rather have a country though that responds with compassion and empathy?
Well, we did, and
be
then
prepared.
now we know that it's not as bad as what they thought. They thought something like a 3 or 4% death toll originally. They were predicting.
But
It's not
Trump
anywhere
said
near
that. Trump said those
Yeah,
things.
I know, and he shouldn't have.
Okay, but That's what I was asking about, is the information and the way he spread the information. We got about 15 minutes left in the program here. We kind of want to talk about some other things if we can. Amy Barrett, the Supreme Court Justice, she just got by the U.S. Senate, right, if I'm correct?
Yep.
This happened last week, early in the week, maybe the week
Monday.
before? Monday.
She got firm.
She will become the third appointed justice under Trump's administration. That's an unprecedented number. It's just the historical context is all over that. In your opinion, being of what the unwritten rule has been for so long, should it have, in the sense of, should they have rushed Amy Barrett to the Senate for judge? Should they have done that?
Yes.
Look, it goes down to would the Democrats have done it, and yes, they would have.
In a heartbeat.
Exactly. And so, look.
Well, wait a minute. They had the chance to do it.
No, they didn't. They didn't have
minute.
the Senate.
Exactly. So, but you can still talk about whether they did it or didn't. So Mitch McConnell said then they shouldn't have done it. Why do you say he shouldn't have done it and then now?
Well, they had the Senate. It's different. Then they can say, well, we're going to wait till the presidential election because we want to hope that our guy gets in. Now, if the Democrats had the Senate right now, and that's why Trump campaigned so hard last time. Look, a midterm election for a president when they hold all three of the both branches of Congress and that, it doesn't go well.
Right.
It went pretty well because they actually gained in the Senate, and
right.
The Democrats have the House, yes, but it's not a crazy majority, and they went for that because they knew that this might happen. I mean, Ruth Bader Ginsburg she was hanging by a thread for a while.
Yeah.
And she should have retired under Obama, and then we wouldn't have this problem.
It's a good point. That's a very fair point.
It's a very fair point. I don't really know why she hung out.
And don't tell me that on her deathbed she told her granddaughter that, they better not do this.
Well, she actually had said that a president is elected 4 terms, 4 years, not 3.5 years. And so, look, it doesn't really matter. I mean, they did it, and I think that the Democrats would have done the exact same thing. It's politics, and that's just how it goes.
So, since it's within the rules, though, my question to you will be then is, since that is, because Trump said at the first debate, right? He's like, buddy, I was elected for 4 years, not 3.5.
Yep,
exactly.
That's true.
And that's a very fair point. The question is now, since the Democrats are talking about packing the court, don't they have the same right to do that?
That's entirely different.
Why?
You're adding justices just to get your agenda through. I mean,
but
I'm saying, you get your agenda.
Do they have the right to do it?
Well,
is the question.
I mean, I guess
lawfully,
constitutionally,
yes.
but
that's the question I'm asking.
It's going to be a bloodbath if they do, because they're going to get their butts handed to them in the next election. I mean, if look, they want to do this radical stuff, and they will end the filibuster. I can guarantee it. They've already said they're going to do it. Chuck Schumer's already talked about it. They will, for legislation, because Harry Reid ended it for judicial nominees. That's why we only need a simple majority to get our Supreme Court justices in now, and all the people that he's been putting into the lower level, the federal courts. And but I mean, they've already talked about they're going to do it for legislation. So if Biden wins, and I think that they're just going to kind of get rid of him, and Kamal is going to run the show.
Definitely.
So I've heard that one a lot lately. Yeah, go ahead.
And so anyway, either way, whether it's him or her, they're going to pack the courts. They're going to add on as many justices as they need. If they have the Senate and the House, and they're going to ram through every single piece of legislation they've ever dreamed of. And it is going to just be a daily thing. The Green New Deal, the whole ordeal, it's coming.
Biden's not for the Green New Deal.
It's on his website.
Well,
they fact-checked him after he said it's not on his website. It's right there.
You'd have to show me, because I haven't seen that portion of it yet.
It's a 180-page read, this Biden-Bernie manifesto. It's huge.
I'm not disputing. I haven't seen it.
You can look it up. It was on his website. Now, I don't know if they've taken it down, but right after the debate, they showed pictures of it. It's right there, and he didn't know. I mean, obviously no president sits there and types all that out.
They don't, sure.
But I mean, that shows the kind of radicals. I mean, the Green New Deal. I don't know how much you know about it. It's 5 pages. It basically gives the government every single power you could ever dream of. I mean, they will. You got to retrofit every building to these new. It's insane. It would destroy us.
Let me ask you this, Lisa. Since you have 50% of the population, maybe give or take a few, we're not sure what it is, that does think democratically or liberal or left-leaning, and you are a 6-3, in theory, majority in the Supreme Court, can you understand the fear that comes if you do think on the left of whether or not your country serves you anymore?
No, the reason why is because the judges that we have put in there are conservative and constitutionally bound. And if you listen to Amy, she said, "I'm not siding with the president, and I am thinking for myself because this is the law. This is how the law goes. I am not a political appointee. I am to keep both parties in with the law."
Okay.
So the problem is before you had these liberal judges, and we've got them all over the states in the smaller courts, and those are all the ones that, stop the wall and stop the travel ban and stop this. And these are all leftist policies they're trying to push in, but it's not even their job to do that.
Right.
That's not their job.
Especially
This is what I'm
a little more
afraid
at the
of.
local level compared to the Supreme Court. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, and it seems like our justices, okay, so you got Roberts, Chief Justice. Then you had Kennedy, now it's Kavanaugh took his spot. They side with the Democrats pretty regularly.
Yeah.
They've been,
And
people
the
have been shocked by
Democrats
that. Yeah.
will not budge. I mean, they stick together, and that's one thing that Trump said too. That's the one thing they do. They stick together and they don't budge. They will not. Whatever the party says, they do, and no questions. And so it's just kind of strange. And so they really don't have a majority with Kavanaugh and with Roberts. You don't know where it's going to go.
Right.
Now.
Exactly.
That's kind of the way I like it in a sense. I wish he didn't have the idea of the conservative liberal. The problem is that when you vote, you have trends that are formed. So you go off of those. So
I know those two are insane about past precedent. That's it.
Yeah.
Whatever it was ruled before, that's what they're going to rule. And so they're never going to change it.
Yeah.
So all this fear is just kind of for nothing. And what is the worst thing that happens? You eliminate Roe v. Wade and it goes down to the states? I mean, that's it.
Well, yeah, it would. You're right.
Yeah.
And it should have been in the states as it is.
Gosh, I want to get into that so much
That's
more,
kind
but
of
we
a-
just can't.
Go ahead. You're fine.
We've got 6 minutes here, and I kind of want to touch on predictions, election, Trump, Biden, whatever you want to do. I'm going to ask you this question, and I'll give you a minute, and then I'll give you a minute, and then we'll talk about it, and then hopefully I'll get the last minute, and we'll go from there. So, Anthony, 2020 election is here. 2016 election is passed. At this time last election, it was the polls overwhelmingly, even Fox News, overwhelmingly, most of the polls had Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio, a lot of those Midwestern states, those battleground areas.
All blue.
Were all blue, leaning blue, in some cases, even very heavily blue. I am hesitant to say that is the same case this time around with the polls. There's something to be said about the silent majority that came out, and Trump really found a way to tap into that. The question is, does that silent majority still exist with 91 million voters that's already voted so far by mail? This is going to be a historical election as far as voter turnout. Could be top of I think 60% is the best in the last 50 years or so. Who wins the election? Not who you want. Who wins the election? And is it close? Is it not? Your choice. Go ahead.
So, if we'd have done this a week ago, I would have said Biden.
Okay.
I've been watching Rasmussen and Trafalgar. Those have been the two pollsters that were most right last time. They were most right in 2018.
Okay.
So I got to go with them. Basically, I have Trump taking Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio. I hadn't taken Florida and North Carolina. I have him losing Pennsylvania because the Democrats are trying to pull some stuff there.
Biden's from there, so let's just give him the edge, right?
Well, yeah, he wasn't there very long. Though.
No, I know, but I'm
You're
just
worried
saying.
about the mail-in ballot.
Well, the mail-in ballots going 2 weeks past the election.
They're very slow at that stuff.
I just think that some shady stuff's going to go down
Yeah.
there, but that puts Trump 286 to 252, and I have Minnesota going blue, even though I think that one's going to be close. And that's about it for the toss-ups. Virginia's going blue. Some people think it's going to go red. I don't see it. The polls are still double digits, and so I think that you're going to have Trump narrowly take this one, but I think he is taking Michigan. He is taking Florida. Those Cubans they're siding with him. I mean, they are. They don't like the Marxists. Yeah, the socialism. I mean, that's a big thing for them. So I think that they're going to take him over the edge in Florida, and I think he's going to narrowly win. Now, a week ago, I would have told you an opposite story, but it looks like the polls are really moving Donald Trump's direction. Now, and the thing is about the early voting, you can look at that too, because the Democrats were supposed to have a much bigger edge than what they have now in a lot of these swing states. And I mean, all that tells us that, hey, a guy that voted a Democrat in the primary turned in his ballot. That's it.
We have no idea.
We have no idea where they're going to vote.
We don't
Maybe they didn't like Biden.
We just
maybe.
know that there's voter turnout is up right now in the mail-in votes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I believe Trump's going to win it. I think there's a huge silent majority. I've got a Trump sticker, which I will not put on my car because I don't want it scratched.
Vandalized. Yep.
I don't, you know.
But I don't think you're a part of the silent majority, though.
No, I'm
Yeah,
not really. But I think there's a huge. I
Yeah.
do. I think especially in the urban cities, I think they're scared as hell.
Okay.
You know, people are just going to come out. I mean, look, you can't even. I mean, you can't
Do you think it's
blow your
close?
nose.
Do you think it's closer this time around, or do you think because
Yes, I
Clinton
do.
won by 2.8 million votes in the popular vote, but she lost by an overwhelming amount when it came to the electoral
The thing
college?
about that you have to look at is you got California sitting way over there on the West Coast.
Yeah, they're
Republicans,
still part of it, though,
No,
Anthony.
listen, but I mean, Republicans know they ain't going to win there.
Yeah.
So a lot of them don't vote. And it's like, because by the time that they can get off work,
Right.
you've already seen some elections called over in the swing states. And it's like, well, you know what? There's no point. And I disagree with that logic because you need to vote in your local elections
Right.
and all that. But a lot of them say, nah, I'm just going to sit it out. I don't feel like waiting in line. And so that doesn't get the numbers. You know what I mean? A lot of Republicans just don't show up out there. But I mean, ultimately, I think I think he will lose the popular vote again. I really do.
Well, I was just on that. My niece was here.
Yeah.
She's here right now from California. She lives in LA. And she said, I'm just not going to vote because I'm going to be canceled out. And I said, but look at
Local
between all
elections.
of California, though, there's a lot of Trumpsters in California. And I'm showing her all these videos and
4.5 million
whatnot.
Republicans. They have
But
the
she
highest
said
number.
between San Francisco, Sacramento, San Diego, and LA, she said that's where everybody lives and that's where, you know.
Yeah, it's like the southeastern part of Michigan,
Right.
where the majority part of it. Okay. First of all, I want to say thank you for being here because we're almost out of time. This isn't easy to do, to put your voice on the line because you never know what's going to come. I post these on YouTube. I post them on Facebook. I know you don't have that anymore. I got to tell you, I've had nothing but respect shown so far, and I hope that continues to be the case. And because it's really, really hard to get off or to come on here and do this. I've got about 40 seconds. I think I'm going to take it if I can. I haven't given my prediction yet because I've been doing this for the 3 shows. I think it's going to be a Biden victory, but a narrow victory. And the only reason I think it is because I think before the beginning of the year, the economy was booming, everything was going well, and it's very hard to vote out an incumbent president when the economy is doing well. That has been shown to be the case. Mm-hmm. It's been a rough year for, unemployment rate is going back up. You can say it was Trump's fault, not his fault, whatever. And with that married with the Black Lives Matter case, I think you're going to have a high number of voter turnout that's youth all across the country. That's the reason I tip it to the edge of the Biden this time around. I disagree with the 2 months and he's gone, but that's another conversation for another day. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you so much for being here. Lisa Bailey, Anthony Cremeans. Any words, last words?
I hope you're wrong.
Go out and vote.
It's going to be close.
Hey, at the end of the day, go out and vote. That's the best thing that we can do.
Well, don't vote if you're not informed.
Don't vote if you're not informed.
If you don't take the time to study it, don't vote.
We talked about that on the Independent Show.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, Bobby Talks is always sitting here with you. We'll see you on down the road. Thanks, guys.